It's time to talk all things New York Jets, and we do that here on Boy Green Daily. Optimism? Pessimism? Some of both? Let's go.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Aaron Rodgers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
What's going on, everybody? Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, and we got a massive announcement to make here on the show. And we have a guest joining us today, and he is committed every Wednesday until he's dead. So for Pete's sake, let's get him on for the first time, and hopefully several times after that, Nick Ferry of Athlon Sports and Pro Football Network. Nick, thanks for the commitment, pal.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing excellent. And right off the top, thank you to Gator, who put this new Boy Green Daily virtual moving around background thing. This is above my pay grade, but it looks spectacular. So shout out to Gator out there who made this for me. I was just gosh darn giddy yesterday with the floating logos and all that hoopla. It's spectacular. And I did not think I could make Nick Ferry look any better, but booyah, Gator somehow has accomplished that mission, and your wife will be a very happy woman. There's no doubt about it. So, Nick, one of the things that I was diving into, and again, right off the top, I just got to say, it's awesome to have you on the show every week. You had such a debut that the fans were begging and craving for more, and you've quenched their thirst. What can I say, Nick?
Look, I appreciate all you guys. I've said this before. Almost every Jet fan who's followed me knows my story. I was hired to be on the Jets beat last year. Didn't really think much of it. Didn't know how far it was going to go, how far it was going to take. You guys have been absolutely incredible. The fan base has been absolutely superb. I am forever indebted to Jet fans, even if, down the road I'm not covering the team. So very, very thankful.
Yeah, well, you've got a special place for all of us, pal. We've appreciated you. And some of the coverage, like I said, Athlon Sports and Pro Football Network, you wrote a dueling article. You had one article, hey, 5 reasons for optimism. And then you wrote another article, 5 reasons for pessimism. I like that you spread the butter pretty evenly on that toast. So which direction would you prefer to start with, Nick? Sometimes people say, I've got good news and bad news. I'm not really sure which one I'm supposed to pick.
It's always the good news. You got to roll with the good news first. I've consistently said it. People that have followed me around know full well. I always start with good news and then focus on some of the bad things. So let's start with that.
Okay, well, we will go through your article here, guys. And again, you can check it out. Again, the Pro Football Network, and you can check out all his columns, quite frankly. Check out his author page. You can see everything that he writes, including there's been some all-time lists that has created some interesting debate here on the show. Those are a lot of fun. We'll have to get into that at some point. But of course, the number one reason, if you are an optimistic guy, and I am a glass half full viewer of my life, it's the Aaron Rodgers factor and what he brings to the table, Nick.
Yeah, and listen, you can throw it both on the optimistic side or the pessimistic side. Most 40-year-old quarterbacks aren't that successful. You look at Tom Brady's last season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a lot of people will say that was probably the worst year of his career. But the worst year of Tom Brady's career is arguably the second or third best season in Jets franchise history. So I think context has to be included to that. With Aaron Rodgers, you have one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in NFL history. And the fact of the matter is the team is behind him. You kind of saw that with Robert Saleh earlier. Connor Hughes reported this past week that it is confirmed that Rodgers was in Egypt, seeing the pyramids and the Sphinx, whatever he wanted to see, moving closer to Africa and to Europe. But ultimately, when I look at what Aaron Rodgers brings to the table, his leadership, his precision passing. Marquez Valdez-Scantling said the same thing too when he compared him with Patrick Mahomes. It's not that he has a bigger arm than Mahomes. I think it's very hard to see anyone who has an arm bigger than Patrick Mahomes. But when you talk about Aaron Rodgers, it's the precision passing that is so unique across the NFL because you just don't see that anymore with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks aren't really focused on completing intermediate passes for high completion percentages. It's more just getting the ball downfield as quick as you possibly can. So with Rodgers back and Rodgers at 100%, there's absolutely no reason to think that the Jets offense is going to somehow be one of the worst to the NFL. At the very least, it'll probably be above average.
Yeah, I like that. But Nick, we have to, that since we're on this Aaron Rodgers topic, I think it's fair to, we got to be straight. And, with this Egypt Aaron Rodgers thing, we've had Mike Florio come out and all these people come out. And you were on the list, Nick, of people that had a big gripe with this Aaron Rodgers thing because he didn't invite you to Egypt.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like, dude, if you're going to go to Egypt, you can at least invite the beat. Like, what are you doing here? That's extra points. No, but and I said this originally when Robert Saleh came out with this. I had no gripe with Rodgers missing time because he's a 40-year-old quarterback. This offense has been mastered by him before. It's not like there are new concepts here. He knows everything about this offense. So for him to take a vacation, like every other quarterback has done at around this time, Tom Brady took 11 days off in training camp. I know Peyton Manning missed some OTAs. Drew Brees did the exact same. So it's not like this is some outlandish thing that he suddenly decided to do for 2 days. Ultimately, my biggest gripe and my biggest criticism came from Robert Saleh himself because there was no reason for him to say it was an unexcused absence. All he had to say was, hey, he's away from the team. We knew about it months ago. It's a non-issue for us. But the fact that he actually used the word inexcused or unexcused, however which way you want to take it, that's where this whole situation came up. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. This is mandatory minicamp. Super Bowls are not won in mandatory minicamp. They are won at the start of training camp where you're really short to see which players have improved. What does the camaraderie look like in the locker room? So with Rodgers being back from Egypt, again, this is a big non-story. It's always been a non-story. It became a story because I felt Robert Saleh didn't do a good enough job in explaining the situation when he was asked.
And random detour on that, because that's interesting. A lot of people have noted when they've been reacting to the Robert Saleh thing that started all this, they're like, wow, he went out of his way to say that it was an unexcused absence. Like, that was not a direct question. That's what Zach Rosenblatt has said on the Can't Wait podcast. And I've been like kind of racking my brain and why would he do that? And then the thing that jumps out to me right now as we're having a chat, I'm like, well, if that other part of the equation is true, that the Jets wanted to make it abundantly clear that it was unexcused and that, there's a line with excused absences, there's a line with unexcused, and it's always making sure everybody in the universe know, and why he decided to come out and say it is, hey, even Aaron Rodgers isn't exempt to the rules of this or that. Am I reading too much into that?
Well, I listen, I think that's what Saleh's intent was. I think his intent was to show no one is above, a reproach here. Everyone is held to the same standard with the New York Jets. But this is kind of where I go back and say, okay, I understand that point, but we're not talking about Garrett Wilson or another player or the third cornerback. We are talking about a quarterback that the Jets have moved heaven and earth for. It is okay to say, Aaron Rodgers, we do things a little differently with him because he's not a 30-year-old quarterback anymore. He's not even a 35-year-old quarterback. He's 40 years old. And this is kind of where I've been pounding the table on. None of this had to happen because it's okay to say that your 20-year NFL veteran is allowed to do some things that are a lot different than the rest of the roster. Even CJ Mosley, he's 31, 32 years old. That's still an 8-year gap between when Aaron Rodgers was born and when CJ Mosley was born. So there's a very big difference between giving Aaron Rodgers the example of, hey, you're not above the rest of the team, but always all along the same lines of, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, right? Franchise quarterbacks are franchise quarterbacks. You have to be treating them a little differently if you want to reap the reward of that. So that's always been my take on that. Again, this is really just a non-issue overall. It's not like the locker room is fractured over this. Everyone's been behind him. It was more of just why'd you have to say it that way? Because now we have to talk about it.
And to be honest, I mean, look left, look right, he is above the team. You know
He
what I
has
mean?
to be.
Like when you have 53 guys, I even remember this back in high school where there were certain players of the team, whether they're the son of the coach or whatever. Well, yeah, they are treated a little bit differently than the rest of us. We can hate it or love it, but it's true. That's life. Things at work, there are people that get a little bit of favoritism here or there, and it is what it is. So, like, even if we went to that point, and it doesn't seem like, at least, and Nick, you tell us because you've been around the team, although very shortly with Rodgers because of his situation, but, Brett Favre was the 1% and didn't really hang out with the team way back in 2008. He had a line of separation. I'm Brett Favre and you guys are a bunch of peasants. Like, it doesn't seem like Aaron Rodgers has taken that approach despite his name value and star power.
I'll say this. Favre never wanted to be here. Favre did not want to be in New York. I think he wanted to stay in Green Bay. And when Green Bay said, no, we're going to move on with Aaron Rodgers, he's like, okay, well, I got to go somewhere. I got to play somewhere. So I guess New York will work. Rodgers, I feel that his personality fits better with the big city because he's all into the bravado. He's all into hey, I'm going to say something. It's going to catch fire. And we're all going to laugh about it because it caught fire. So he plays that situation very well. And again, it's not so much, well, you have to show favoritism to some people, but let's acknowledge the fact that the Jets brought in his offensive coordinator. They brought in his former teammates. They have done everything possible to make Aaron Rodgers comfortable. So why are you stopping now? I mean, that's just my thought process to that. And again, is this going to all turn out sunshines and daisies? If I'm a betting man, I would bet a lot of money on Aaron Rodgers succeeding in New York because the team that they have right now, I would argue, is better than the team they had in 2008 when Brett Favre came into the picture. And remember, Brett Favre, as bad as that ending was, that was a damn good team for a good 3/4 of the year. The only reason why they faltered down the stretch is because Favre got hurt and tried to play through the injury because he's Brett Favre. This is what he always does. He gets hurt, tries to play through it, and the team sinks behind him. They are in a much better position, the Jets are, to handle Aaron Rodgers this season and his talent level, wherever that is, to really, really succeed in the AFC.
Another reason for optimism, Pro Football Focus just crowned the Jets. Crown them. Crown their ass. Crown them. They just crowned them the #1 defense in the NFL heading into the season. And as you wrote, a top 5 defense got better. Top 5 and 8, 2, 3, 4, or 5, apparently. So that seems to be a reason for optimism since that carried the team last year in every respect. And now you have that with all of the things you just said about Rodgers.
Well, and I think with the defense, and a lot of people have argued back and forth about Hassan Reddick. Is he more of an upgrade over Bryce Huff? Is the combination of Bryce Huff and John Franklin Myers better than Hassan Reddick? I have seen Reddick up close for 2 years. I offer a very unique experience for Jet fans to tell you everything Bryce Huff and John Franklin Myers has done over the last 2 years pales into comparison of what Hassan Reddick is as an NFL defensive edge rusher. There is no comparison. I'm not just talking about sacks because Reddick, we know about this, one of 2 players in the NFL right now with 10-plus sacks in each of the last 4 seasons. I think he's 6th on the list of sacks in the last 5 years. Look at what he does in big moments. Just look at his highlight reel where he's getting the sacks, he's getting the pressures. It's all coming in the fourth quarter. It's all coming late in games. I remember one particular game 2 years ago when Philadelphia was playing the Jaguars. Torrential downpour. The offense was terrible. And the only reason they won that game was because Hassan Reddick forced 2 fumbles and back-to-back drives and back-to-back plays. Wow. This guy knows how to rush the passer. He knows how to get after the quarterback and force turnovers. But also at the same point, he's as clutch as they come in the NFL. His clutchness alone is what makes this Jets defense better, because I feel a lot of people are worried about the run defense. A lot of people are worried about situationally giving up big plays in key moments, especially with a better offense now, because that sort of lull will happen. But when you have a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber pass rusher, this is the guy you want, because it is all motor all the time, and he's going to be taking less snaps this year because of what the Jets do. So he's going to be even fresher by the time the season gets into December and early January.
Yeah, I see my father's in here. Reminder, Eston Zone Lock is a contender for Defensive Player of the Year. Plus, I'll share this clip out later. Quentin Williams, the Jets media staff, before everyone left, they interviewed everybody, and they're kind of spreading out all the interviews to kind of
help me with
us
content. Take them.
100, yeah, which is what I said. Every time I see one of those videos, I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you. God bless of all the content that they're doing. And again, it's pumping out content, so I appreciate it. And Caroline Hendershot is the Jets reporter who was interviewing Quentin Williams. And like I said, I'll share the clip out later, but he said Hassan Reddick is an MVP level player, Defensive Player of the Year guy. And again, to your insight of covering the Eagles and putting it up there, I think it's for the people that say, it's a debate. JFM, there is absolutely no debate. Absolutely not. This is a upgrade. Now, there's feelings involved, right? Because JFM had the story. You scooped him up off the scrap heap, and then you developed it, gave him a contract, and there's feelings there. Bryce Huff, undrafted free agent. You nurtured him. You healed him. You brought him up from the ashes. Those are feelings. But if you just are, again, Nick reporter here, you just lay it straight. You just lay it on the line. No feeling. No, it just is what it is. It's a result-oriented business, and the results are the results. And Hassan Reddick, pretty gosh darn good, I would say here. And again, we're speaking with Nick friggin' Faria, for Pete's sake. Pro Football, not Athletes. But I mean, I would have an easier job of listing the things that Nick Faria does not do than the things he does do, because the list is just incredible and the resume is spectacular. There's just no question about it. And also, this offseason, it's been a unique feeling for Jet fans. Another reason for optimism is the roster overload of talent and things all over. The Athletic roster rankings, Jets here. NFL.com, the media group, roster rankings here. Again, unless you're Pro Football Talk, you have the Jets in a 25th on the power rankings. Everybody else besides Mike Florio seems to think this roster is pretty gosh darn good, pretty elite, and it's been ranked up there consistently. I would say top 10 consistently across the board, but in most cases, it's been top 7 in the league across the entire National Football League.
I'd throw him in the top 5, and I'm being completely objective here, because I feel majority of the top rosters come on the NFC side. I think there's a very strong debate to have and a very strong point to make that the Jets have the second best roster in the AFC behind the Kansas City Chiefs. And I will say consistently, I'm not betting against the Chiefs ever again. It is absurd. I've seen them, what they do to my team specifically. I've seen them, what they've done with my biggest rival. I'm not doing it ever again. I just won't. So ultimately, if I'm judging teams in the AFC, I'm looking top to bottom. And do the Jets have the best quarterback in this conference? I would venture to guess probably not. I'd probably put Rodgers 4th or 5th, depending on how you want to put Lamar Jackson. Again, objectively, is Rodgers the same quarterback that he was 10 years ago? It's not fair to assume that he will be. But after that, do the Jets have a better running back than the Bengals and Ravens? I'd say certainly yes. I'd throw the Houston Texans in there as well. Do they have a better number one receiver than the Ravens? Yeah. Maybe not the Bengals, but certainly the Ravens. Then you look at the offensive line. Well, the Bengals' offensive line has been horrific now for the better part of 5 years. The Ravens took massive losses along their offensive line. So I think overall, fully healthy, the Jets' offensive line is better. And then you look at the defense, and we've talked about this enough, but the Jets' defense is as elite as they come. The Jets are a very unique roster because they're not paying Aaron Rodgers the $50 million a year salary. So that allows them to keep a lot of this homegrown talent. And it's allowed them to have a top roster because, again, like I said, just look at the numbers, compare the rosters from one side to the other, and you really cannot make an argument that the Jets are anywhere worse than where the Bengals or the Ravens are. And a lot of people consider them the second and third best team in the conference.
100%, and it's intriguing to see. And again, when you start comparing apples to apples, you're like, interesting. Again, it all comes down obviously to the quarterback position. What version of Aaron Rodgers are we going to get? And no player vest on the team, no analyst, no coach can tell me. And of course, they can't tell me because we have to see it. We don't have a large sample size history of 40-year-old quarterbacks coming off torn Achilles, so we don't really know. But it'll be obviously a fascinating storyline to watch. And another one that sometimes I don't want to say it never gets talked about. This next point of optimism, but it is one that I don't think gets talked about enough. The power shift of the AFC East. Not only have we argued and explained that the Jets era perhaps is pointing in the right direction north of the border, but you could argue some of the other arrows and some of the other teams are going a different direction, and it's not up.
Are the New England Patriots going to compete for the AFC East title? I think most people, I would say this, people that don't have a gripe with the Jets will say that the Patriots are not going to be contenders for the AFC East crown. And then you look and say, okay, well, what about the Miami Dolphins? And most, again, analysts will say that the Dolphins are probably going to be the toughest competition for the AFC East because they have Tua, they have two excellent wide receivers, probably one of the best wide receiver duos we have seen in quite some time. The offensive line is not bad, and their defense, while they've taken several hits, has improved in the aggregate. So they've gotten, I would say, a little bit better, albeit not totally better like the Jets. And then you look at the Buffalo Bills, who have owned this division now for 4 years. And you look and say, okay, well, can Josh Allen win without Stephon Diggs? Can he win without the secondary, which has been elite over the last 4 years? Can he win when they're not exactly the same elite group? The answer to that is, I don't know. And if that's the case, and if everyone is not sure about the Bills, which everyone seems to be, then it's not smart to say that the Bills are somehow going to find a way to beat the Jets twice. Again, logic dictates exactly what I'm saying. Right now, top to bottom, the Jets have the best roster in the division, and it's not really that close. The only question is going to be, are the injuries going to affect the Jets like they have over the last couple of years? And I think even if they were to get a couple of big-time injuries, I think things are going to be a little different because the Jets have done such a great job this year of actually developing their depth. Depth is going to be so important in this division because when you get to December and when you play the Miami Dolphins and it's cold and everyone's worried about, oh, Tua in the cold, he doesn't play well, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. Don't you want your team relatively close to him? So if he were to collapse again, these solid average players can be able to perform at a high level. I look at this top to bottom and I really don't think it's that close. I think the Jets are going to run away with this division.
Yeah, and I'd love to see it. And I will say this because I know I got this one Buffalo Bills fan. Where is that bastard? Let me scroll up. Ah, there he is on Twitter. Danny in real life, who I do know, Danny in real life. We've actually worked together in our past histories in the world of basketball. And he is a massive Buffalo Bills guy and number one New York Jets troll. There's no doubt about it. But I would say this to everything you just said, Nick, I think I agree with. The thing is, I will give the benefit of the doubt to the 4-year running champs, and they will be the champs, quote unquote, until we rip it off and then slap a new one on for the 2024-2025 season. So Buffalo, tip of the cap, you are the champs until you're beaten. You've won it 4 straight years in a row. Patriots won it a cajillion years in a row. Then the Buffalo has taken it from them. So I see that. Love everyone sleeping on Buffalo. Much rather be slept on than the favorite. Have fun, sweet dreams, and almost like a kissing emoji that isn't there, kissing me goodnight. Well, we'll see what happens. Again, a Zach Wilson Jets team beat the Bills 2 times the last 2 years. Okay, I wonder what an Aaron Rodgers unit will do. Hopefully, we get a
big question. That's a big question. Like, okay, you've lost to Zach Wilson twice in the last 2 years. It's not like you've blown the roof off the Jets every single year. Okay, so you win big in Buffalo. That's great. You complete home field advantage, but you honestly think Aaron Rodgers can't go on the road and win a road contest against a division rival, something he's been doing in Green Bay for decades? So, again, we can just talk about Buffalo. And again, Josh Allen's an elite quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback now in the NFL. But will he still be a top 5 quarterback without his number 1 receiver? That's a big question because the modern NFL, no one seems to really want to have this conversation, but the modern NFL has shown that a lot of quarterbacks without an all-pro wide receiver aren't really that successful when that all-pro receiver leads. So there's going to be a lot of questions surrounding Josh Allen this year. And again, whether he answers and doesn't answer, that remains to be seen. But let's stop acting like this is a foregone conclusion that Allen's going to have another MVP caliber year.
And I would say this, if somehow this was a weird universe and I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, and this is called Buffalo Boy Daily or something, and everything, and I am thrust into the Buffalo Bills universe, and I'm first to, kind of answer the questions, I would be saying to myself, oh, great, Stephon Diggs got now we don't have anyone to force feed the ball. We could spread it evenly across everyone. I know the optimistic things. If I was in Bills land, I would be selling to myself and the rest of the Bills Mafia fans. That's what I would be saying. But the truth is, we don't know. Again, Patrick Mahomes, you said earlier, I'm never going to count against that guy ever. Guilty as charged when I'm like, Patrick Mahomes, no Tyreek Hill. You're going to find out what the rest of the world knows when you don't have him. Oh, 2 straight Super Bowls. I see. I apologize, King. I am so sorry. I messed up on that one. But
all you need to know is, Patriot fans are very, very nervous. And listen, my family, they all live in Rhode Island. They are all part of the conversation. They're not Patriot fans per se, but they are very, very nervous because Mahomes has won 3 and he's not even 30 yet. So there's going to be some conversations about GOAT status if Mahomes wins a couple more that I think is going to be very, very interesting over the next decade.
No doubt about it. My favorite, though, reason in your optimistic list, and then we'll go through some of the pessimistic ones. We'll also open up the phone lines, everybody, so stay tuned. We'll have that going on for the 400 people in the room right now. Is that basically the Jets are due? Like, for God's sakes, it's been 13 years. Like, at some point, the list, that was my favorite. That made me laugh when I read it, and it's honestly true. For God, 7 teams in the AFC make the playoffs. There's 16 teams. That's basically a 40+% odds of every year that almost half, it's not quite half, but almost half makes it every year. You flip a coin enough. Like, doesn't it eventually have to land on another side? A phenomenal reason. Yes.
I look, and I'll say this. The odds are in the Jets' favor this year because I think it's something around 40 to 50% of playoff teams do not return to the playoffs.
Yeah, the turnover,
so you have to think half and half. So let's say 3 teams don't make it in the AFC, 3 teams don't make it in the NFC. And then you look and say, okay, well, who are those 3 teams that aren't going to make the playoffs? Well, I'll tell you one right off the bat, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They somehow always find a way to stay in contention, even though the roster's been really good and the coaching staff, I think, has been vastly overrated in a lot of different ways. I just don't know what you're going to see in Russell Wilson that's going to change the 9-8 parade that they've had over the last 5-6 years. So I think Pittsburgh's a team that could probably not make it in. The Cleveland Browns. How are the Cleveland Browns going to do with Deshaun Watson at quarterback? Spoiler alert, it wasn't that good when he was starting, and Joe Flacco came in and saved their asses. So they're another team that I could look at and say, maybe they don't reach that same pinnacle. And then the 2 other teams I look at are the Buffalo Bills and also the Houston Texans. And the reason why I say watch out for Houston is the sophomore slump is real. It's been real for a very long time. And C.J. Stroud had one of the greatest rookie seasons of any player in NFL history. What he did for that team is masterful. Same thing with DeMeco Ryans. But that doesn't always remain the case when it comes to the AFC South. The AFC South is weird, where just because you're the best quarterback, just because you're the best team, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the division, because you could say that same argument for the Jacksonville Jaguars this past year, and they completely collapsed down the stretch, so much so that Doug Peterson could potentially be on the hot seat. So I think Houston and Buffalo, in terms of the division winners, are the ones everyone has to look out for, because those two are the ones that could certainly switch. And when you do the math, okay, we know 4 teams may not make the playoffs. We know some teams are definitely not going to make the playoffs. Now let's look at the teams that are going to be in contention. You have to think right off the bat, the Jaguars are going to be in contention. The Colts are going to be in contention. Mm-hmm. We talked about, I'm going through the list, but you have to think that the Raiders and the Chargers are going to be in contention. And then you throw in the Jets. So there are 5 teams for, let's say, 3 to 4 playoff spots. And again, if that's the case, Aaron Rodgers, is he better than Aiden O'Connell? Is he better than Anthony Richardson? Is he better than Trevor Lawrence? I think the answer to that is an emphatic yes. You look at the rosters. Is the Jets roster better than anything the Jaguars, Chargers, and Raiders all have? The answer is an absolute yes. Logic dictates this streak is going to end this year, but at some point it has to end because the football gods can be cruel. And I have seen it firsthand. They can be very cruel. But they always tend to throw a little bone out here, there, and again to just make some teams very happy. And I think certainly this year could definitely be that.
I am ready to collect. There is no doubt about it. I've got a lot of bones to collect from God. So hopefully the football gods can present us that coming up. Let's go through some reasons of pessimism. I think people will know what some of these are. Namely, and the loudest one on every show you see is injuries, because the Jets, and jokes have been made that they have the all hospital team with Mike Williams and Aaron Rodgers and Tyron Smith. I mean, go through the whole list. They've gotten guys, either a bunch of guys on 1-year deals, and then most of those guys have had some injury history that if the stars and moons align, they'll be really good. I mean, that's been a big reason of pessimism from outside of people are not a Jets enthusiast, and they push back. That's one of the main things people say.
Look, and I'll say this. That concern is real because you look just at the numbers, you look at the career trajectories. Almost every player the Jets have brought in has major injury concerns. But the one thing I will say, and again, I always try to add the pessimism with a little bit of understanding of context of that may not be the case this year, because when the injury bug happens to teams like this, normally there's a correction over the next couple of years where the players, sure, they go through nagging injuries, but they aren't missing massive amounts of time like Elijah Vera Tucker missing the entire year for the same injury in the same place 2 years in a row. That doesn't tend to happen for a third year. The other piece to it is the Jets have done a really good job of improving the depth. Olu Fashanu this year being the backup left tackle or backup swing tackle, if you will, is a significant upgrade over anything the Jets had last season. So his draft selection was really, really smart. Same thing for Malachi Corley. Tyrod Taylor, a backup quarterback who knows how to win in the NFL right now. These injury concerns are all there, and they're all fair to be there. But it's also fair to understand that the Jets are in a position where they don't have to worry about injuries as much as they have in recent years. And the other thing I will say regarding this injury-filled roster, as people call it, I want everyone to look, and I'm serious. It's kind of freaky when you look at it. Look at the free agency the Jets have had this year, and look at the free agency the Philadelphia Eagles had going into the 2017 season. In the 2017 season, the Eagles brought in an injury-figured wide receiver in Alshon Jeffrey, an injury-filled quarterback in Nick Foles to be the backup to the starter. They brought in depth along the defensive line. They brought in depth along the offensive line. They made a trade before the start of the season, which I think the Jets could certainly do. There's a lot of similarities there. And a lot of the guys that Philadelphia brought in 2017 were guys that dealt with injuries. And unfortunately, fortunately for Eagle fans, it ended up working out where everyone was healthy at the same time, and they all just dominated the league the entire year. I'm not saying that that's expected to happen because injuries, of course, you never know what's going to happen from a year-to-year basis. But let's be honest, top to bottom, this group stays relatively healthy. They're going to be a really dangerous team for the entirety of the year.
So the Jets are winning the Super Bowl. Beautiful. Excellent. Nick, I love that take. That was obviously the take that you just said based on all those. Eagles, Jets, bing, boom, bam. Same thing. Love it.
Listen,
okay.
My nightmare scenario, and I've said this before last year, my nightmare scenario is Eagles, Jets, and Super Bowl 59. Because I'm just not winning no matter what happens. Because Philadelphia wins, I'm over the moon. Everyone hates me. Jets win, everyone loves me, and I'm absolutely miserable. So I throw any other team out there except Dallas, and I'm good to go.
Okay, there you go. I love it. Coaching staff inadequacy. Boy, there's a lot of meat on that bone. Speaking of bones, Nathaniel Hackett, Robert Saleh. I mean, last question about like a Jeff Ulbrich, who's done a terrific job. Brant Boyer, who's done a terrific job with all the new special teams rules. You think he's going to get really creative? But boy,
Oh yeah.
Saleh in key situations, which there should be a heck of a lot more of with competent quarterback play, where these are going to be under the microscope. These key situational decisions, 2 minutes, timeouts, this or that, and obviously Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, there's that too. That's a big one from outside as well. People always point to that for some pessimism on the New York Jets.
And again, I don't think Robert Saleh is a bad coach, and I've kind
Okay.
of pounded the table on this ever since last year when I jumped on the beat, because if you look at where the Jets were at some points late last year, their roster was not good enough for 7 wins. That roster was good enough maybe for 3-4 wins, and he somehow got them to 7. 7-10 is not a disaster-filled season. What it is, hey, you went through a lot of injuries and you stayed relatively together. That alone is a feather in the cap of the coaching staff. If they went 3-14, 4-13, we're talking about in a completely different conversation. There's an argument to be made that a new coach is in the situation room right now. But with Robert Saleh, I think there's a lot of questions to be asked, obviously. The in-game decision-making he has to be better at. The bigger question, of course, is Nathaniel Hackett. But again, you brought in Aaron Rodgers with his guy. When Aaron Rodgers was his quarterback, Nathaniel Hackett's offense looked pretty damn good. So, like normal, when you have an elite quarterback, mediocre play callers tend to work out. Adam Gase with Peyton Manning, Josh McDaniels with Tom Brady. It's really not that far-fetched to assume that Nathaniel Hackett will be better when Aaron Rodgers is behind center. Because it's, again, history and the fact that they've already proved it show that this relationship can work as long as both sides are on the field together.
And another one is obviously the potential for off-field distractions, which whether you can consider our Pharaoh, Aaron Rodgers in Egypt, or Hassan Reddick, where's Waldo? Where is he? Oh, he's in Japan. Aaron Rodgers in Egypt. Everyone's on a global tour of some sort. When you go off-field distractions, are there any that bubble at the surface that you think, or more so, hey, it's the New York media, it's the New York Jets, I can foresee potential of that disrupting the boat at some point?
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing right now to say that the Jets are going to be exhausted by the time the year gets in because they're just so tired of all the hype. Kind of like what Hard Knocks did last year. Sure. I think the team was just tired in a lot of ways of all the media hoopla surrounding them. And then to get Aaron Rodgers hurt 4 plays in, just devastating all around. There's nothing like that this year. But certainly, and again, I talk about him, his skill set. I talk about him as a leader. If Rodgers goes out and says, kind of what he did in Green Bay, where we need to start changing some roster moves here. We need to start benching people left and right, which I thought was probably his lowest moment as a Packer when he was the quarterback. I think that's the kind of thing that could set the locker room off. But other than that, there really isn't anything right now to say, oh, this is a concern, this is that, because we've talked about it. The Reddick contract is going to be figured out eventually, whether it's at the start of training camp or before. The Aaron Rodgers saga is going to end the minute he takes snaps in training camp. There's really nothing to look at and say, we have to worry about this. It's just a matter of, you're in New York, it's a major market, you're a major market team that's gone through a terrible postseasonless drought. Everything is going to be just looked at through a microscope. Don't add more fuel to the fire.
And this is a little more in the weeds one, but, the Super Jet fan might know this one. It's the run defense thing, because there were some issues last year, but then there are the people that provide. Again, Nick Ferry always provides context around it, where people say, well, they knew they were playing against Zach Wilson, so they just had to razor blades and lemon juice. They didn't have to cut the Jets' jugular. The Jets would do that themselves. All we have to do is just keep nicking them. And that's the run. That's what some people have said to some of the run defense numbers, that they may not be as bad as they seem because of that situation. But then the numbers are, in fact, the numbers. Plus, you consider some of the personnel decisions this offseason with guys like, Al Woods, who is a phenomenal run guy, a big mammoth gargantuan, massive piece of human flesh that was there in the middle of the defense. You bring in a Likey Fotu who maybe, but JFM, Bryce, like you go in the, the collective, when you add all of those pieces up together, plus what they were dealing with last year, that's a sneaky one that not enough people are talking about.
And I'll say this, with Reddick, he's a better run defender than Bryce Huff, but the main issue is John Franklin Myers and Al Woods no longer being here. And I'll say again, when you look at the Jets' run defense last season, a lot of it had to do with the fact that teams had leads because they knew Zach Wilson wasn't beating them in a duel. They weren't beating him in a quarterback duel. So just run the football, take 3-4 yards a carry, and go on from there. The Jets' tackling has been an issue for many years, but they're not the only team that does that. Tackling altogether has been a major, major weakness for the NFL over the last couple of years. I will say, when you look at the Jets' run defense this year, Leaky Fotu, no one really knows what he's going to do at the defensive tackle spot. I know Solomon Thomas is a really good player. Quentin Williams is a really good player. All these guys are set. Jet fans may not want to hear this, but trust the Jets coaching staff. If there's one group that we can say that has just exceeded expectations time and time again with the development of talent, with the ability to plug and play guys who may not be elite at their position, but as a collective unit make up one of the best defenses in the NFL, you have to trust the staff that Robert Saleh has built. We can argue about his in-game decision-making. We can argue about the things that they do on offense. But the one thing we can't argue is the fact that even if they're getting gashed, the defense is going to make a play when the team needs them to the most. They did it against the Giants. They did it plenty of times against the Chiefs. They did it against the Denver Broncos. They have shown overall that this is the most elite group in the NFL, and a lot has to do with the coaching staff. The coaching staff has them prepared and ready for any situation. At the very least, we should give them the benefit of the doubt of solving the run defense at the early part in the season. Now, if it gets to like week 8, week 9, where they're 6-2 and both losses came because Aaron Rodgers had 15 minutes of play time on the field, that's a different conversation. Then you would look at Joe Douglas and say, okay, what are you going to do to fix the run defense? What are you going to do to get this team where they need to be in contention for the Super Bowl and AFC crown? But right now, as it stands, I think you have to trust the coaching staff with what they do.
And a great balanced meal we just provided, people. Some pessimism, some optimism. You stir it all up, and that's a well-balanced meal, people. God bless. You're welcome. Nick Faria gracing us with that information. The phone lines are now open, people. The link is pinned to the top of our YouTube comment section. If you'd like to join, youtube.com/boygreen25. You click and join that group, and we've got a bevy of callers, a collection plate here. So let's go through. We've got the waving man himself, and also, congratulations on being a member for 2 months on the Boy Green Coffee Club. Bobby Midnight here on the show. What's up, Bobby?
Boy Green, I got good news for you.
Oh, good news. I love good news. All right, what do we got?
I'm coming to home opener for you.
Oh,
you
wonderful. Wonderful.
You know how I did it?
What's that? How?
You wouldn't believe on my channel. They give me money on my channel.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Well, and here, I'll play the JATS chant for you. Here you go.
And I call Nick Shine. You only need the tickets by the 8th, right?
Yes, yeah. So Johnny Boy was asking me this, I think, on Instagram yesterday. So tickets are the one, that's Jets Patriots tickets. If you guys are coming, that is July 8th. So that's a hard deadline. The tailgate one is more floating. So that part of it, you guys can pay a little bit closer, or if you pay now, either way, that works.
I could pay the tailgate way before August.
Okay, great. Excellent. Perfect.
Doing on my show, I couldn't believe all the money I was getting last night. It's unbelievable. Hi, Nick.
How you doing, Bobby?
How you doing? I thought you were Eagle fan. Are you an Eagle?
Oh, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, but he covers the Jets. He balances both worlds.
Let me figure this out. Okay, you're an Eagle fan, but you comment on the Jets. Can you explain that?
Sure. I get paid to offer takes and cover the Jets, but that does not deter my fandom at any sense of the imagination.
So why don't you just head over to the Eagles, that smelly team, and do that? Well, why can't you do that?
Well, I'm waiting for the offer to be made. Let's put it
I
that
like
way.
I like you, but I don't like the smelly Eagles. They got my running back on your team, which
Oh yeah, he's a Giants guy, so
yeah, I
Saquon
do not
Barkley,
like
right?
the Eagles at all. I do not. But I have a story for you. Do you ever hear of Dennis Franks?
Can't
Well, he
say I
played
have.
for your team. He played for your team in the Super Bowl.
Dennis Franks?
Yeah.
Was that the 80s Super Bowl?
Yes. You ever see the movie? What's that movie? Invincible?
Yeah,
Yep.
Vince Papali, sure, yeah.
Yeah, he was
Mark Wahlberg.
in that movie. In the movie, somebody portrayed him. Do you remember the office lineman in the locker room?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was him. I met him. Me and my
Awesome.
ex-wife was doing a business called Market America.
Nice.
So it was in North Carolina. We had a convention. So my friend Joe was working with him, and we got to meet the guy. Guess what jersey I wore to meet him is? Take a guess what jersey.
Papali?
No,
Jaworski?
a Phil Simms jersey. He was not too happy with me. Yeah. But look at this. We could compare to the Jets and the Buffalo Bills, right? How many Super Bowls have the Bills win over their years? 0. The Jets have won. Just shut up, those Buffalo Bills. Right?
That's right. Yeah, that's math. I remember that one.
I'd rather have one Super Bowl than losing 4 Super Bowls in a row.
I can happily confirm that now. I can happily confirm
that is right. Yeah.
Yes.
Nick has joined the club. Thank you, Nick Foles.
Well, I was
special.
surprised. That's why I get it confused. You're an Eagle fan, which I can't stand.
But
that.
shouldn't you be here, Bobby? But isn't this true? So, okay, he's an Eagles fan. That's a little weird. Wrong shade of green. And why'd you steal our JTS chant? Sounds a lot cooler with us. No offense. But no, if his Eagles didn't get the job done, Tom Brady would have another Super Bowl ring. If the Giants, also in your NFC East, didn't do the job, he has 2 more Super Bowl rings. So you know what? We shouldn't be throwing stones at Nick Ferry.
Yeah, but
we should be praising him, celebrating him.
I was cheering for the Patriots beat those smelly Eagles.
Oh.
I hate those
Bobby.
Eagles.
That's
hey, I like the Celtics. I was cheering for the Celtics.
Yeah, but okay. Well, let's leave that. Is that the Patriots? What the hell? That's
I was
un-American.
Don't like the Eagles.
I just want to say to Bobby. I totally understand, because if I lost to a team 24 of the last 32 times and lost a playoff game by 30 points,
got one to stick
I would
in your bone too, right there. The Jets beat you last year, so explain that. The Jets beat your Eagles this year. That was great. I love that.
A lot of teams beat the Eagles last year. They didn't really play that well.
Playing the Jets. The Giants this year, you got to run all over our team with 200 yards against Barkley's going to run over 200 yards.
Well, Bobby, congratulations. It's going to be great to meet you in person now for Jets Patriots.
I didn't think I could make it last night. It was raining, and it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
Okay, and I talk too much.
No, that's okay. We can't wait to see you, Bobby. So yeah, if you just reach out to me or Nick, all the details are in my YouTube description. We'll get you all set up. Okay.
I'll give the Nick the money.
Perfect. Great. All right, thanks, Bobby. Appreciate you, pal. Yes, so a quick random plug since Bobby brought that up. Yes, we're going to Jets Patriots. Nick will be covering that game, so I imagine he won't be able to. If he wants to do a drive-by for the tailgate, we'll have him. But yes. Jets Patriots week 3. Again, the cutoff is July 8th, so it's rapidly approaching. All the details are in the YouTube description. You guys can PayPal or Venmo me, Paul A. Esden, ESDENJR@gmail.com to lock in your tickets. It's $140 for upper end zone. Plus, we got the tailgate special, which is an additional $65. All the details down below. You guys can also reach out to me via that email if you have more questions. That's also in the YouTube description as well, and the YouTube About section. All right, let's go next here. We got Johnny Boy here on the program. What's up, Johnny?
What's going on?
Familiar face.
PG.
Yeah, they're going Huega House. All right, a little Aaron Rodgers action. I respect that. Jake
Nick,
nice.
We've missed you, brother. You know, we've been here. Like, where's Nick been? Where's Nick been, man? And Nick, I hope the Eagles beat the bricks off of the Giants, bro.
Same.
Can't stand the Giants, dude. So
same.
I'm
250 yards for Barkley, 3 touchdowns. I'm good.
I can't wait. Is that first one? Is that for? So I have not seen the Giants Hard Knocks yesterday, but I heard that they kind of like talked about the Barclays thing. So I can't wait to listen to that. But is the first Giants Eagles one? Is that a primetime game? What is that?
I believe so, and I believe it's at MetLife.
I just love those juicy storylines when you get a returning guy. That's going to be
very
phenomenal.
excited. I'm very excited.
Did you guys watch it?
I have not seen it yet. I want to see it. I have not seen it yet.
I don't have HBO. And quite frankly, I don't really want to watch.
Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. But what, Johnny?
Good.
Did you see it? Was it good?
No.
Oh.
So much better with the Jets, man.
Hey, I could probably agree with that. That makes sense.
But
the storyline's different because, like, okay, the big story yesterday was, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Saquon Barkley, all this other stuff. The Jets, the first episode is, yeah, we got Aaron Rodgers. Hi. We're gonna compete for a title this year.
That's good. And this is the first ever offseason edition because so what they're gonna again, I have not seen the episode yet, but what they're gonna have to do is all the information is known properly for the most part, because like Saquon Barkley's not here, this not here. The Hard Knocks that comes in August, like it's new, they're cutting up new fresh stuff. The Dalvin Cook thing. Oh, what's the latest in the timeline? There's all kinds of new stuff that's live. This has all been edited since the end of the season to now. So it's all old information. So they're going to have to get really creative to present it. So that part will be fascinating to me.
Hey, Nick, let me ask you this real quick. I know you've been covering them for a minute, and myself and BG, we've been really high on Corley. Mm-hmm. There's another guy that we know that's like very young, right? And he's not. What have you seen within Corley, and have you been seeing him take those steps, or like any good nuggets that we could know about?
Yeah, I'll say this about Corley. Everyone sort of needs to really, I think, deflect their expectations a little bit, sort of diminish it. Not to say that he's a bad player, but he hasn't signed his contract yet, which is the reason why they didn't really put him out on the field a lot. Over the course of offseason workouts. They love his intangibles. Obviously, ball yards after the catch is just insane. Get the ball in his hands and let him work. But I would say right now, if I were a betting man, probably Xavier Gibson is going to start over him to the beginning of the year. He's going to get his package of plays, but Gibson has just looked fantastic, whereas Corley has just been okay. What you see is what you get so far.
Johnny, by the way, are you in the hospital right now?
Yeah,
I was about to say that looks like a familiar couch. I've slept on one of those before.
Yeah, hold on.
What?
Babe,
yeah.
Babe, say hi.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Congratulations.
God bless. Yeah. So when's the baby due? Like
I've been waiting, man. It's like
wow.
13.
We are in the. I see. Yes. Wow, Johnny.
What are you doing calling here for?
So, see, this is the thing. I just had this conversation with my fiance because, like, so she's due in November. And I said, hey, I do this daily show, Boy Green Daily. Do you mind if, I kind of still do it next to the hospital bed? And she went, no. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Okay. All right. Never mind.
She's been cool, bro. She's like, just chilling, like, and everything. I mean, so, we've had multiple ones. So it's like, we kind of know what to do.
It's different.
Oh, sure. You're a pro. You're Aaron Rodgers.
Just sitting down, but hey, man, we're here. Nick, I was happy as shit to see you up here, dude.
Thank you.
It's BG. Hey, dude, hopefully we see you at the home opener, man.
Yeah, swing by, Nick, 100%, man. So we'll have a tailgate action going, and let us know if you're swinging by.
Okay, yeah, we're doing a BG toss.
I keep hearing that. I don't know exactly what that entails, but some sort of a boy green toss. And me being the boy green in this, I need more details. Yes. Yeah, that's for sure.
I appreciate you guys, man. Hey, JETS.
Jets.
Good luck, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. Congrats, Johnny. That's amazing. Awesome for you, pal. And
dude's calling in middle of wife giving birth.
Very understanding wife. Perhaps too understanding.
27.
Yeah,
I'm 27 years old. Myself and my wife, we're not even part of that conversation just yet. She's abundantly said, I swear to God, if I am giving birth and the Eagles are on or there's a football game on, the television is off. And if I see you on your phone, you're getting killed on the spot. I'm like, okay. I'm not. No, we're good. Not an issue here.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting for my fiance because again, November. That's if she's on time, that'll be the bye week. But things are not normally on time. Oh boy, that could be a situation. But we'll address
Hope it's
that.
on a Wednesday. Get it
Yeah,
on a Wednesday.
that's right. Yeah, I'm supportive. Let's just get it out of the way for you.
Any
Yeah.
other day before Sunday.
That's right. God bless America. All right, we got a couple of callers here that will wrap up the show. Ricky, New York Live here on the program. What's up, Ricky? Up, you're on
Hey, what's happening,
mute,
Paul?
maybe?
How you doing, Nick?
Oh, there it is.
Good
Okay.
to see
Yep,
you.
go ahead.
Good to
How you
see
doing?
you.
Thank you.
Congrats. I heard my boy Johnny had the catch a camp for you guys up there recently, and hopefully he does well for you guys. You know what? As touching on the concerns about the coaching staff, we're judging Saleh on the lens of what is a coach going to do when he's put in an impossible situation with nothing that resembles a quarterback or an offensive line. So let's just pump the brakes on that a little bit and let's see what happens this year, because I think a lot of people's opinions on Saleh is going to change.
I agree.
I know that, some fans want him to be like that hard-nosed Parcells type coach. That doesn't work with these kids these days. If he was just go and start calling people out, he would lose that locker room, which is one thing that he didn't do. That team never quit on him last year, as bad as things got at times. So I think we need to kind of pump the brakes on the Saleh concerns. I think we're going to be fine. And I think that everything is pointing in the right direction for us this year. I'm expecting a great year. Everything works out, God willing, we'll see you in week 20.
Ah, I like that math. Thanks, Ricky, for the call.
I completely agree. I really do.
Man.
It's Robert Saleh. You can't judge coaches when they don't have all their players together. It's very, very difficult to do. And quite frankly, is it really fair to throw Robert Saleh in the conversation of worst Jets coaches, because the roster that he should have is never the roster he gets week in and week out.
That's true. And I would say, too, it's a very fair point by Ricky. Like, man, this guy hasn't had the quarterback and had, let's just go there. Like, forget everything else. The quarterback.
Yeah.
He hasn't had that, so it's hard to evaluate the rest. That's fair. But I'm just saying, in your list of putting it together, these are what people are saying, both you yourself as you came up with it, but also people outside are saying about the coaching.
He's got to prove it, too.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I believe. Right. So you get the quarterback. Now the excuse out the window then. So, like, if you're messing up these situations, we're like, well, you got the quarterback now. That's what we said before. Now you have that. What is it now? It can't be some new made-up excuse. So, again, just a lot of pressure on him to see if he can deliver. And we'll wrap up the show with one final caller. It is the one and only B-Mac here on the program. What's up, B-Mac?
Hey guys, Paul Boy Green, Nick.
How you doing?
It's great to see y'all good in this beautiful morning.
Yeah.
I just can't wait for football to start, training camp, so we can stop with all this, Egypt and mandatory and all. Is he all in because he went to Egypt and missed 2 days of patless practice? I mean, who knows? I mean, he went to, he took the ayahuasca and won back-to-back MVPs with us. So maybe this Asia trip might help y'all win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, hopefully one did ayahuasca or something in the pyramids. As far as I'm concerned, you're right. That would be stocked back up. Yes.
Yeah. But I do got two questions for y'all.
Okay.
Well, one is that I get it with all the injuries concerns on this team. I get it. This team is, have older players. Rodgers is 40, coming off an Achilles. So who knows? Like we haven't seen a 40-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles before and play at a high level and stay healthy. So I believe he will stay healthy. Again, last year was the outlier. The guy has a track record of being a Iron Man. He's very durable. And he keeps himself in great shape too. You know what I mean? Like you saw him at the UFC event. The dude jacked up. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't have the problem in that area, but it's concerned that people want to call Aaron Rodgers fragile and all this stuff, but people don't use that same term for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I know.
Oh yeah, you're 100% right, B-Mac.
forward.
No one says anything about the pile of injuries Joe Burrow has. 100%. That's a good point.
Yeah, like can we start is it feel that we can start questioning his injury concerns and his health concerns? 4 years in the league, have 2 season-ending injuries, and then at the beginning of last year he had a calf problem on top of that. So
right,
and then Lamar Jackson before last year, he was he missed multiple games.
Sure.
People don't call him fragile. People don't call who else? Tua. I mean, last year.
Yeah, outside of last year, which again seems like an outlier right now. That's another thing to Nick's point of I don't know if he said this specifically, but with the AFC East questioning, okay, every blind squirrel can find a nut. He was healthy for all 17. If I'm Tua and his agent, I'm not showing up to Dolphins camp until I get my crazy contract. Because if let's say he's compromised, he's on this 23 million change option. Let's say it pays, 10 games. The Dolphins are like, and then all of a sudden we get questionable. If I'm Tua, I am banging the table for the money and get my bag, 100%.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Let's say Tua sits out of training camp to start because he wants that deal.
Yeah.
Does he get called selfish?
No, I've already heard it.
I that's kind of my question, because if we're going to do this with Aaron Rodgers and it being a major media market team like the Jets, what about the Dolphins, who have the best receiver duo in the NFL, a really good defense, a really good offensive-minded coach? What's the conversation then?
You know what's funny? I accidentally, because we all know each other in different markets. I ran into Dolphins people, and I heard them doing a podcast about that very subject. And the Dolphins reporter, his name's Omar Kelly, he said he advocated for Tua to hold out a camp and said, you got to get your bag. And they were having this conversation with him and another Dolphins analyst, and I just went, interesting. A interesting slight, interesting little twist there. Yeah.
I'm going to do the Brian Windhorst. Well,
yeah.
Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why would the media act differently with Tua than it would with Aaron Rodgers? That kind of seems counterproductive. Same position, same team, same expectations.
Yeah.
Because Tua didn't because Tua took the COVID vaccine and Tua didn't miss.
So we get a little bit of that political stuff. Could be.
If it really is this political, if this debate with Aaron Rodgers, this round the clock criticism comes because he lied about the vaccine. COVID happened 3-4 years ago. We're past that. Aren't we supposed to move on from this? Shouldn't we say, you know what? Okay, we've moved on. The lockdowns have ended. Everyone is back to a regular life or something close to a regular life since then. Why are we still talking about the COVID vaccine?
That's a fair point. B-Mac, do you have one more? Because you have one more question. We got a few more callers to get to.
Yeah. I just want to say this quick. He didn't lie though. He said that when he said he's immunized, he was immunized.
I'm not talking. Yeah, that's.
Right. I won't touch that. Yes, right.
I'm not touching that with a 2-foot pole. But my point is, if this is really about the vaccine,
I explain it for another time, but that's not what you're about. And then, okay, well, my one question, y'all, do you think Aaron Rodgers is fragile? Or y'all concerned about his health this year?
All right, we'll ponder that one. Thank you, B-Mac, for the call, brother. We'll answer that for you. Go ahead, Nick. You could start first.
I think there's reason to be concerned. 40-year-old quarterbacks, that they're not the same body type as they were 10 years ago. But again, I'd be more concerned if the offensive line wasn't as good as it was, and that's kind of my point. If they didn't have Tyron Smith and they didn't have Morgan Moses and they didn't have Olu Fashanu, then I would be concerned. But the Jets have those guys. So I have to assume that this group is going to be 100% better.
Yeah, and a shout out to a couple of YouTube membership gifts. Uncle Tio giving one out, which lands at Ricky New York Live, who is now a member of the Boy Green Coffee Club. Shout out to Tio. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. I love it. And also Chew, mother_effing_Chew, gifting a Boy Green membership, which ends up going to Phil. So thank you guys for all the love. And again, Boy Green Coffee Club. It costs a cup of coffee a month just to support the show. So feel free to do so. And then we'll get back to the phone lines. There's a random off-subject thing. I saw this earlier, but we have a YouTube super chat. And I'm wearing a Syracuse Mets hat today because one of my other jobs, I work for the AAA affiliate of the New York Mets, which is the Syracuse Mets. And everyone asked about Acuna. And this is, by the way, the younger brother of the Atlanta Braves superstar. Unfortunately, had a season-ending injury earlier this year. And they're asking, do I see the Mets bringing up the younger Acuna up from Syracuse? And I certainly hope not. He's been spectacular down here in the Salt City, stealing bases. That is his calling card. He's also been caught a bunch. But, man, he is so fun and exciting. So I hope not. But for your parent club, New York Mets, I hope so. Go ahead.
OMG. That's just where we are right now. It's the OMG Grimace Max. That's all that matters. Right. I am all in on bringing up Acuna. I want to see more of the young players. My thought is, listen, if the Mets are going to do this and if they're going to try to compete for a playoff spot, then you get your best players on the field at all times. Is Jeff McNeil one of your best players? The statistics, the tape, all of it shows that he is not. So get someone into that can. That's my thought.
And shout out to the Mets last night. 5 runs in the 10th inning to win that one against Washington Nationals. 2 games of that first 4-game set against the Nationals. So, they're handling business. So shout out to the Grimace Mets. All right, let's jump on over to the phone lines. It looks like my father is here. Let's go to him. Or maybe not. Oh boy, we got the dreaded circle spinning. I saw he was in the car, so we'll come back to him. All right, let's go to our next caller. This guy called for the very first time. He found my show on Spotify randomly, and he became a fan. And then he called in a couple days ago, and I think we got my father back. So I'll be right back with our Spotify listener. I think my father's back here in the car. Esden Zone joining us. What's up, Pop?
Hey now.
All right, we got the gun show going.
Yeah. Hey, a couple quick things. Hey, Nick, respect to you. And I'm glad you get the respect I don't. I come on and try and talk real about the Jets because of Boy Green, even though I'm a Cowboys fan. And I'm glad you don't get the hate as an Eagles fan. No, I don't like the Eagles. You get essentially get a pass. I don't know what you did, but if you could figure out what that is, let me know. But
maybe because I'm not a Cowboys fan.
That's probably it.
The other quick thing is, Robert Saleh, in my opinion, deserves the bad press he gets as a coach, and it has nothing to do with his record, right? Aaron Rodgers got hurt. What can you do about that? It's what he did about it after. The ridiculous press conference things about injuries, the bad coaching, which is, literally clock management, which is coaching, which I would expect from a high school coach. That's why he's a terrible coach, right? That he didn't know his offense. He wasn't involved with the offense. Again, he doesn't run the offense, but the touch points, he essentially was letting Hackett, which obviously was a bad plan, run the show. And he didn't even know they had one of the best receiving running backs in football until week 8. So that's why Robert Saleh is a bad coach, not because they didn't have a quarterback. And he doesn't sign the checks to bring in a backup like they should have done. I'm blaming him for the ridiculous bumbling he does at press conferences and his bad clock management.
Oh, I get that. I will ask you a question in return. Is Doug Peterson a good coach to you?
Doug Peterson is a good coach, yes.
Okay. Do you know that he did not have a single thing to do with the drafting, game planning, or anything involved with the Eagles when he was the head coach there? It was strictly offense for him.
Right. And obviously that fourth down play at the goal line that essentially won him the Super Bowl planned out pretty well.
Yeah. But that's kind of my point where my point is a lot of coaches in the NFL focus on their side of the ball. Even with head coaches, you look, Mike Tomlin doesn't have anything to do with the offense. You look at Bill Belichick, he's had very, very little to do with the offense throughout his 20 years. It just comes down to this. Belichick had Brady, Tomlin had Roethlisberger, Doug Peterson had Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. When they don't have them, and when they don't have the team around them, those flaws, those inabilities to have the in-game perfection as many people want, they don't exist. And I think that's where a lot of the misconception happens. And I will say, you talked about Robert Saleh's media session. I was around for Todd Bowles, and I was there as an intern with Jets Insider. I will take Robert Saleh talking to the media because he's a little bit more open than Todd Bowles every day of the week. What Todd Bowles did was maddening at times. Where what's wrong with Tremaine Johnson? And he would say, nothing. And then we'd find out in a day, actually, he has a torn ACL and he's not playing anymore. So I'd rather take Saleh over a guy like Bowles in the media. However, like everything else, he could be a lot smarter. And I think ultimately that's probably where Saleh's bigger problem is right now, where the Rodgers piece, a lot of the different issues in game, some of this stuff is going to get solved once you have a competent quarterback at your disposal.
Okay, I think we lost him there in the car, but appreciate that. Another couple, Tio is being like Oprah Winfrey out here with these gifted memberships. Throw one out there. Shout out to Harvey, who's a big fan of the show. He just got gifted a Boy Green Coffee Club membership. And $2.99, people. It's a cup of coffee. It's spectacular. Tio once again giving another membership out. Scott Foster. So everyone's getting memberships, baby. You, me, and everybody in between. Phenomenal. So keep those coming. Those are spectacular. All right, one last call. I promise this time. One last call before we wrap up the show, and I got to run to the radio station. But this guy, like I said, he found our show on Spotify, and then he started to call in the last couple of days, become a regular, quite frankly. He's moved in. I didn't even know I had a room to, give out as an apartment style, but he's living here now. It's FL Phil 98 here on the show with a beautiful jersey. Look at that.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the space in your place. I don't take up a lot of room.
Yeah.
And I'm rocking the Crabette jersey today.
Yeah.
And I wasn't actually going to call in today. I was just listening. I wanted to jump on after Ricky.
Mm-hmm.
And then your dad, actually, what he had to say, I'm kind of like Switzerland in the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with everything that Nick just said. Nick, by the way, I really enjoyed your segment today. It was great.
Thank you.
I agree that there's flaws with what's the name, the coach
Saleh. Yeah,
Saleh, excuse me. There's definitely some issues with Saleh, but who's perfect? Nobody. The reason I jumped on initially was I remember Wayne Crabette in an interview when Parcells was the coach. Crabette was hurt in '99, and he had a bad leg. And there was an interview with him where he said Parcells came up behind him and kicked him in the leg. Was checking, are you really hurt? And with Crabette, the guy who took the punishment over the middle and all that, and he said, "Are you crazy?" All right, that would not fly today. I agree with Ricky 100%. You got to be a player's coach today, and that's what he is. He could be better with time management for sure. He definitely has that deer in the headlights sometimes in a bad spot during a game, but nobody's perfect. It kind of is what it is. And I agree with Nick. You put a good team on the field with a good quarterback, we'll see what he does. If he blows it, he'll be gone. That's pretty much it. And I want to give another quick shout out to Ricky. I like Ricky's takes. I really do. So, from me to you, Ricky, keep it coming. And the other thing I wanted to say is while I'm wearing the shirt and everything, I met Wayne Crabette multiple times, actually. When I first started tailgating in the 90s, I had season tickets with a buddy. We found right by Gate C, I don't know if you remember the old stadium, there was 4 circular staircases that, A, B, C, and D. Mm-hmm. Right outside of Gate C, there was a bunch of people lined up with lawn chairs and stuff, saving 20 parking spaces. And we parked across the street from them. It turned out to be Wayne Crabette's family and friends.
Wow.
They had one of those canopy things that was custom made that says Team 80. They had a street sign, a pole with a street sign that said Crabette Boulevard.
That's cool.
We hung out with them, we tailgated with them, and after the games, sometimes Wayne would come out with John Hall, who was the kicker then. They were best friends. And he came out after a game, and his rookie season was 95. My daughter was born in 95. So I said, hey, your rookie season was my daughter's rookie season. My buddy had bought a Pee-wee football for us to throw around before the game. Mm-hmm. It's the only autograph. I'm not one of those guys who gets autographs. I have a lot of Jet stuff, mostly gifts. The only signed piece of paraphernalia I have is this. To Emily, Wayne Crabette. He signed it in the parking lot that day. I've had it for almost 30 years. I keep it wrapped in plastic. And every Sunday, I put it in a cup, a beer stein right next to the TV. So shout out to Wayne Corbett, one of the greats of all time.
Corbett, graduate of
Hofstra University.
Hey-o.
Thank you. Even though they canceled the football program and have since made everyone miserable. That's besides the point.
That's too
Wayne
bad.
Corbett, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Baby. One of the greats.
Thank you so much for the call, brother. And we'll see you again tomorrow, I'm sure. We'll keep this train rolling.
Thank you very much, Paul.
All right. Thank you. And you have a good day, too. And, shout out to Ron. Yeah, Paul, they did take Acuna out of the game. I'm just saying selfishly for Syracuse reasons, I'd love Acuna to stay down there forever because, again, that's all I do. I don't call or work with the New York Mets baseball team. So I only get the Syracuse. So I prefer that the good players stay down there, but it makes sense for everybody. Well, Nick, another awesome show. And that's what everyone's saying in the comment section. And, folks, he'll be joining us every Wednesday moving forward. So I'm looking forward to it. And we're training camp's right around the corner. Should be a lot of fun. Nick, thanks, brother.
Appreciate it. Talk to you guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow morning for Boy Green Daily. Take care.